Hey guys, I'm Stefan Kesting, friend and training partner Richie Yip. And
hey guys.
Today I wanted to talk about making the transition from the gi to the no gi. With Abu Dhabi coming up, I don't know when this will be released.
Yeah, one of my favorite events. Love watching it. Super awesome. Yeah.
But Abu Dhabi will either have happened or be about to happen
sure.
when this comes out. So I think talking about making the transition from training with a gi to training with no gi, because a lot of people find that super frustrating.
Oh no, it's absolutely frustrating. I recommend that everybody does both.
Yes,
because
100%.
Your training with the gi will force you to understand certain controls, because it just illuminates how the gi, the uniform, it just really illuminates how the human body can be manipulated. So it's a great teaching tool.
And it also, yes, and it also slows the game down. So if you're one of these people who likes to think their way through a grappling situation as opposed to reacting their way through, if you're more cerebral, it gives you a little bit more time to think about, okay, I'm going to grab here, then I'm going to grab here, then I'm going to do this.
Absolutely, because no-gi is just so much faster.
Yes.
No-gi is just so much faster. You don't have the grips. It's really slippery. It's not as adherent, because I don't have this wet pair of jeans on where I can just go and latch myself onto your half guard or fight from your half guard. So it certainly does slow the game down. I also think that as a gi practitioner, you should take off the gi on occasion and go to a no-gi class, because it will make your controls so much tighter.
Yeah. And you don't want to be that guy who, like, one day, for whatever reason, takes the gi off and is completely lost. I can think of some training partners of mine who are brown belts with the gi and blue belts without the gi.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, it happens all the time. It happens all the time, and they just never really spent that time to make that transition. And I think
the guys I'm thinking of have some very specific gi-based attack games. All their submissions and a lot of their guard pass defense is based off of getting a tricky grip with the gi and then using that.
Right.
So if your game is based on tricks, I don't know how fundamental, it's not universal jiu-jitsu.
It's not universal. So I think going from gi jiu-jitsu into a no-gi game, the main thing to focus on is transitioning from cuff and collar controls to wrist and then collar ties.
So instead of like grabbing the lapel here, grabbing the wrist, well, not the wrist, grabbing the cuff right by your wrist,
right,
and doing that, say, classic sleeve and lapel grip from closed guard, I'd be doing a 2-on-1.
Doing a 2-on-1, maybe grabbing the wrist and then controlling the elbow, or it could just be controlling my wrist, like you're grabbing onto my hand here, and then maybe this hand here can just grab onto my collar as well. And then you see how it's almost like a Muay Thai collar control, and you see how, Stephen, you can pull on my head with your palm, but as well, if I'm trying to drive into pass, you see how you can also use your forearm, your elbow to kind of keep me at bay, which is what you would do if we were gi grappling. You would use your hand on my collar. You see, you can keep me at bay. You almost like work the choke, right? It's kind of like, keep me at bay once again. And as well, you can collar drag, right? So if you have this, you can sit out and yank me all the way down. You can.
So I guess replaced by an arm drag more.
Right, would be replaced by more of an arm drag scenario. And I think certain concepts still hold true, like trying to amplify your strength by compounding your skeleton, meaning that if you're controlling
let's say that again.
Wasn't that sexy?
Strength by compounding your skeleton.
Yeah,
thank
you. I spent all night trying to write that one. Okay. Right, it takes me a lot of effort to sound that smart. But like,
what do you mean?
You 2-on-1.
Okay.
Right? So do you see how, if it's 1-on-1, if you just grab my wrist, do you see how it's like, okay, well, the person with the bigger biceps is going to win. Right? So you see I'm pulling, you're pulling, whatever. Right? However, if you do a 2-on-1, note how your skeleton is compounded, meaning that it's connected together. Also, it's 2 against 1. And it's not so much 2 against 1, it's really like 10 against 1, because you're just so much stronger than me when you put your skeleton together, right? Now, as you can do that in the gi, if you grab my sleeve and maybe you grab like the armpit grip right here, you see how strong this is. You still want to do something of that manner, I think, in a no-gi scenario. So if I go to you...
You want to gang up on the guy's body.
Absolutely. You still want to try and gang up on the person's body. So if you can kneel up for me, Stefan. So right away, it's like, man, I don't have a gi. right, to grab onto, right? You're not wearing one. So do you see how maybe I can just start off with the wrist and eventually maybe almost like an arm drag, but it's still a 2-on-1. And I can do that 2-on-1 on this side, right? From here, do you see how because of the fact that it's no-gi and it's going to get really, really slippery, if his arm is straight, he can just pummel his arm just straight back out. What we're trying to do is decide, I just want to go and kink his skeleton a little bit. It's not like I'm doing a wrist lock, but I want to try and do a wrist lock. And then from here, I do a little rotation. Can you pull back from me a little bit?
Much harder.
Much harder. Because do you see how I create handholds, right? With the elbow and with the wrist. And also, do you see how I'm putting rotation? Anytime
Internal rotation of the shoulder.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the same principles occur when we have the gi, in the sense that we're looking to compound our skeleton, right? 2-on-1. And also, we're trying to get some rotation, it just makes the other person weaker. The problem is that with the gi, with the uniform, sometimes it just gets abused, and those grips, like if you have like really strong hands, if all you do all day is chin-ups, right? You can just hold on to the person, it can be really, really difficult, right? For the person to pass, right?
Easier to stall. You get
easier to stall.
semi-threatening position, just hold it.
Another thing too with no-gi grappling is the prevalence of leg locks. Because of the rule set, right? A lot of no-gi events,
Plus,
heel hooks.
Yes, it's the rule set, but also, I mean, if we're going with a gi, you've got this big noose around your neck. It's called the lapel.
Right.
Now you take that off, throw out half of my submission, right?
Right. Oh, for sure.
So now I'm left looking for the natural grips, and that's if your hand is a fist. That's the ball at the end of a rope. My hand gets caught there at the wrist when I slide my hand down your arm.
Sure.
Same thing's true of your leg, right? If I slide my hands down your lower leg, they eventually end up getting caught here at the Achilles. So that's a natural handle.
Right.
And if we start
We're
living in a world with less natural handles, we're going to start going for the few ones that we have.
Sure. Absolutely. So we just need to diversify our attacks in order to keep the same ratio of attacks going.
Yeah.
Right. So also the fact that you can, if we both have gis on and we're rolling, and let's just say that I just go for a straight ankle lock, you can grab my collar, right? So if I can just do a straight ankle lock on you, so see how everything's going pretty well. I got that ankle lock and we're gonna. But you see how Stefan, he's just grabbing onto me. He's not even doing anything super fancy, super intelligent, right? He's just grabbing onto me, and all of a sudden,
I've got a good grip and a strong arm.
Man,
you're not going to finish that sucker.
Super tough for me to deal with, right? And as well, my collar here allows Stefan to be able to post up and start to stand up, right? And then he cleans this frame, and all of a sudden, I'm in a terrible position. But that's much harder to do it. Stefan, if you ankle lock me, however you like, maybe you go to this side. From here, what do I have to grab onto? Well, maybe his elbow, his sweaty elbow, right? Maybe, which he's gonna clear. It's gonna be really tough for me to get his neck. If he had a collar, great, but he doesn't, right? So the percentage of the chances of him finishing the leg lock in a no-gi scenario are just higher.
And once you start including heel hooks in that, I don't need very much time at
Oh,
all.
Woo. You can already feel it.
Yeah.
Right? I already feel it. So with the rule set, and also the rule set with no-gi, you just have to be worried about leg attacks. Also, they're just more prevalent just because, well, there's no choke that's so obvious. There's no lapel choke. And then it's just easier to hit leg locks. Mm-hmm. So it's important to address. It's important if you do a lot of no-gi grappling, just to address, like...
I think your point about there not being a lapel is super important because it prevents me getting my head away from you.
Mm-hmm,
and
certainly.
For most leg locks, for almost all the effective ones, I want to get my head away from you.
Yeah.
And I want to extend away from you, and just that simple grabbing on the lapel.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Is like a low level but very frustrating defense.
Oh, and it's really, really frustrating. Also, I think no-gi grappling, we had alluded to earlier, where it's just so much faster.
Yeah. I think that's when people are making the transition. So let's just start finishing up here, but talk about like advice to people who are making the transition. So I think number one is they have to accept a faster pace.
Absolutely.
But that's made a little bit easier by the fact that they've got less techniques to have to worry about. It's like you're playing speed checkers as opposed to regular chess.
Right.
Because you don't have as many different pieces, you don't have as many different attacks,
but
you do have to choose faster.
Right, you have to choose faster. And then there's a the cardio component, right? I just get tired a lot faster when I do no-gi just because the pacing is so high and athleticism becomes a greater, plays a larger role.
So I think people making the transition just have to know that that's coming.
For sure.
And they'll adapt.
Absolutely. And that's just the nature of the activity, right? There's nothing you can do about it. That's just the nature of the beast, right? It's just faster. Athleticism plays a larger role, right?
So then they also have to be prepared, I think, to throw out like a half their game roughly.
Yeah.
Like no lapel chokes, no lapel grabs, no sleeve chokes.
For sure.
No spider guard, really. I mean, there are some principles of spider guard you can still apply.
But tough. You really have to, because of the gripping. Right away, a lot of the open guard styles will have to change, right?
So what kinds of open guard should they concentrate on, in your opinion?
Well, right away, a lot of X guard, single leg X, right? Deep half guard, which are not sleeve and collar dependent, right? Because do you see how?
And I would say butterfly guard in there as well.
Oh, sure.
I mean, it's hard to talk about. I mean, certainly when you and I roll no-gi, you're forever in my butterfly guard, and I'm forever in your butterfly guard.
Yeah, it's just weird how that works out. But at the same time, it's not weird because there's how many guard configurations can you really play, right? So, like you could go like, you could put your foot on my bicep and then, right, do some, you can also go like reverse Delahiva,
right?
And also sleeve, like sleeve control here. Whereas I certainly, if we switch that out, I couldn't do that to you.
No.
Like there's no way, right? So it certainly limits the amount of guard configurations we can play.
So our advice to people is accept the faster pace. Be prepared to throw out about half your techniques. Certainly a lot of your submissions and controls.
Yeah. Right.
Work on your leg locks, which we talked about.
Right,
Any other final pieces
of
advice?
And then the gripping, really.
You had a great analogy about from the Terminator series. So why don't you share that?
Oh, yeah. The way I sort of look at the gripping is like the T-1000.
No-gi gripping.
Yeah, no-gi gripping. It's like the T-1000, right, from Terminator 2, and when he's chasing after...
What is the T-1000, Richie?
Oh, well, it's the latest model of Terminator.
Okay.
That is a molten metal, and it can forge itself into virtually any shape that he wants. And when he's running after Robert Patrick, when he's running after the cop car, and he turns his arms into hooks, that's how you want to play. Like, you want to basically turn your hands into double cobras, right? So can you kneel up for a moment, please, Stefan? So do you see how I have double cobras, and you see how every now and then I'll do this? I'll use my thumbs. Yeah, absolutely. But largely, if we're grip fighting, do you see how I want to use that double cobra, right? And then I'm using the double cobra. Every now and then, maybe I may have to use my thumb, right? But note how I'm doing this, as opposed to Stefan just grabbing onto my sleeves, and if you sit back into your guard, Stefan, maybe you could just you see how he's just rowing, he's just keeping his elbows in, and he's just really, really strong. So, thank you so much. So do you see how, right, if we're doing no-gi grappling, it's almost like this double cobra, right, action, right? Every now and then, we'll use our thumbs, right, for the collar tie or the wrist, but for Stefan...
I would guess your Chinese heritage would say that's a praying mantis grip.
Yes, praying mantis, right, absolutely.
All
you Asians, all you Asians out there, know what he's talking about, right? So, also...
Funny, because I'm the Kung Fu nerd.
Yeah, I know, right?
I've culturally appropriated...
Yeah, exactly.
I apologize.
Being more diversive, right, culturally. Broadening your demographic. Also, for the gi grappler, instead of doing this motion where we're just pulling and bringing our elbows in, right? That's how we would normally control our grips. We're almost like this, where it's almost more hooking, right? So that helps a lot, I think.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's some good pieces of advice for people getting started. Yeah. And really, I mean, it can be a rough transition, but after a month or two of doing it,
I think so.
You'll begin to figure it out. If you're a decent with the gi, it's not that big a transition to no-gi.
I agree.
Oh, the other thing I think is you have to work your wrestling takedowns.
Huge.
Because it's more dynamic, it's more common to sort of get halfway up to your knees, end up in front headlock situations, or come all the way back up to your feet. And if you're completely lost there,
right. Just wrestling, doing like head position driving, right, is huge. Right? It's huge, and how that will really, really help you, and it'll stop you from getting caught in guillotines, and how to capitalize on sloppy guillotines and be able to do double legs and whatnot. I think it'll help a lot.
Like double legs and even if you're not doing any stand up, finishing single legs and double legs
huge
from the ground is huge in no-gi.
Oh, for sure.
So,
Absolutely.
All right. So that's a few words of
Yeah,
advice.
absolutely.
And
I think that was. Hopefully, everybody will find that helpful.
yeah,
Right?
just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, man. Right on.